Yo, man, what's going on? It's Ronan, man. Today, all right, we got the spoiler section of this Ant-Man and the Wasp review. All right, I put it in two separate videos. All right, this is the spoiler section, whole bunch of spoilers going on. We're gonna get into this breakdown video, all right, because I could not for the life of me remember what happened in half of the movie, and I also wanted to learn some new stuff that's gonna help me like learn about Kang some more, maybe some other stuff that I probably missed out on. So let's get right into it.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of all the Easter eggs and details you missed in Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
This breakdown is brought to you by
our good neighbors over at State Farm. Okay, let's begin. Quantumania's Marvel Studios fanfare includes, for the first time, an MCU villain. He Who Remains from the Loki finale, added to the top of the A in Marvel, as this movie places his throne room atop an A-shaped tower, and he has a history of dominating other countless Avengers. And in the post-credit scene, there is a glimpse of his corporate variant, Mr. Gryphon, who I believe currently sits atop Avengers Tower, renamed.
That ending scene, by the way, was absolutely crazy. I was not expecting them to do all of that with Kang. All right, that scene must have taken a brick to do, but it was very interesting and funny. And I also got very confused because if they killed Kang the Conqueror, which Kang the Conqueror is like the real big, like he's the baddest version of Kang, and Ant-Man beat him, what the like, and then the ones coming up are just weaker versions of that Kang. Then like, where's the threat at that point? Like, I want to see Kang the Conqueror go crazy, not the rest of the Kang. I want Kang. I don't know if he's dead or not. We don't know if he's dead or not, but from what it seems, he's dead. So, but if that's the case, that kind of sucks. That kind of makes this movie even worse, in my opinion. If Ant-Man of all people killed Kang, I don't think he did though. I think he's coming back. So we just have to wait and see on that.
Kang Tower. Then again, He Who Remains was relatively an MCU hero compared to his variant, Kang the Conqueror, in this film. This prologue scene shows his arrival in the quantum realm when he was banished by the Kang dynasty for starting the same multiversal war that
they kicked his ass out. They took all that shit away.
Every version of me was so pure of heart. New worlds meant only one thing: new lands to be conquered. The peace between realities erupted, each variant fighting to preserve their universe and annihilate the others.
You can see three pieces breaking off of Kang's ship as it arrives in this atmosphere, perhaps representing the three Kangs who led his betrayal.
That's what I'm talking about. That shit was so
crazy, there may actually be a
dog.
connection between the three timekeepers and the mysterious fourth broken timekeeper statue, a statue that represents, perhaps, this exiled Kang. Now remember, Janet Van Dyne had been stuck in the quantum realm since
her ass throughout the entire movie. I was just like, ain't no way you did not tell them about this galactic level multiversal threat. I guess she must have been that scared from touching or looking into Kang's little thing. She must have been, I guess, so terrified that she just decided not to tell anybody. She could have caused so less problems if she would have just told somebody. Like, this whole thing could have been avoided if she would have just said something. It's crazy to me. Let's get back into it.
He shrunk between atoms to disable a rogue ICBM in 1987.
She was the real villain, in my opinion. She was the real villain.
Question, Janet aged normally over the 30 years in the quantum realm, while Scott time dilated, aging only 5 hours over 5 years of our time, because Scott fell into a time vortex while Janet did not. Janet just stayed in the normal quantum realm that entire time. Remember, Janet's line in the 2018 film's post-credit scene indicated that time vortexes were separate things within that broader quantum realm.
And don't get sucked into a time vortex. We won't be able to save you.
Now, it isn't specified, but the camera does linger on one of those big vortexes in the sky, and that might actually be one of the time vortexes that Scott slipped through, and one of the ones that the Avengers later navigated to go back in time in Avengers Endgame. But this opening gives us a scenario in which the roots of Phase 5 and the Multiverse Saga begin with two old-school characters. Janet Van Dyne Wasp was one of the original Avengers in the 60s comics, and Kang was one of the OG Avengers villains, the time-traveling villain from the 1960s comics, who was later retconned to be the same entity as several other time-centric villains: Immortus, Pharaoh Ramatut, Scarlet Centurion, Victor Timely, even the hero Iron Lad. We're gonna meet all of them pretty soon. Kang and Janet save each other, and we don't see Kang again for another 46 minutes, despite everyone in the movie talking about him in every scene. That's okay. Again, we're gonna spend a lot of time with this guy going forward.
He played such a good villain.
John Sebastian's theme song for the sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. A kind of callback to the 2018 Ant-Man and the Wasp having an opening montage set to Come On Get Happy, a theme song for another sitcom, The Partridge Family. Scott's opening narration references time traveling with Captain America and Endgame, and how that didn't make sense. Though in Loki, we learned that was something the Kang variant He Remains wanted them to do.
What they did was supposed to happen. You escaping was not.
FBI agent Jimmy Woo, Randall Park makes a cameo. He and Scott finally getting that lunch date.
I thought you were inviting me somewhere.
Like a party or like dinner or something?
I don't remember.
I don't know. I thought
I have
you
to
were- and
rewatch
plan
those
to
first
be
two
even.
Ant-Mans. I don't
Like
remember
a
them
rest
too
you,
well.
I'll
It's
arrest
strange.
you later again.
Take it easy, Jimmy.
Okay. Did you want to grab dinner or something? I mean, because I'm free. Yeah, come on.
I love how Scott does some sleight of hand to conjure the credit card, something that Jimmy Woo was fascinated in Scott doing in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And we saw in WandaVision how Jimmy picked up Scott's close-up magic hobby. Scott gets toasted by YouTuber Ryan Bergara and his wife Mariel Scott. I've actually guested with Ryan on his channel Watcher. I love that
I didn't
channel.
know
I
who
love the
that
whole
was.
team over there. And this makes me so close to being MCU canon. Kevin, just call me. You know it would make my life. Scott's old Baskin Robbins boss Dale returns to the 2015
Fakest
film.
person
Now he
throughout the
awards
whole
Scott
movie is
Employee
Baskin
of the
Robbins boss,
Century
bruh.
using his old
Fakest
company
person.
photo. And he kept Scott's pink apron and his name tag Jack, which in the 2015 film, Paul Rudd picked out to shout out his son, Jack. And this goofy award is also kind of a running gag, with Cassie giving Scott a World's Greatest Grandma trophy in the previous film. Now, Quantumania is the 31st movie in the MCU, which is a nice little
31st,
coincidence with the
that's
31 flavors of our beloved Baskin Robbins. Scott visits
Baskin Robbins
Bridge
got hella
Donuts, with
promotion
all the
in this,
donuts
bro.
more
Shit was
overpriced
crazy.
at $3.50 per, very typical of San Francisco, and all the different donuts are themed around San Francisco things: the Embarcadero, Summer of Love, the Hate, Presidio, Pier 39, Golden Gate, and the Candlestick. A detail that I screwed up in one of my trailer breakdowns. Like, I'm sorry, I now know the Giants don't currently play there. I've only lived in the city for a year. Please don't kick me out of it. I like the parks. Now, the cafe owner is played by actor Ruben Rabasa, who actually played a balloon vendor, Mr. Cardazzo, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 12, and a hilarious character in I Think You Should Leave.
Any other ideas?
Stinky!
What?
Here he
What the
says,
fuck was
Thank
that?
you, Spider-Man!
Thank you,
"It's a completely fair
Spider-Man.
mix-up, considering after that memory wipe from Doctor
Oh,
Strange,
that's
no one
also
remembers that
one of the-
Spider-Man
one
is
of the
Peter
good
Parker.
jokes.
Hope Van Dyne now runs the Pim Van Dyne Foundation to use Pim particles for humanitarian efforts, reversing deforestation, expanding public housing, food production. Meanwhile, Scott parades on his book tour, which was actually teased in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and in Ms. Marvel, when we saw Scott was doing a lot of press tours, like his appearance on the This Powered Life podcast. Scott has to pick up Cassie from jail. Cassie, now played by Catherine Newton. Jail is where Scott began his journey in the 2015 film, but Cassie is really taken off of both Ant-Mans, including Hank Pym. He kept a shrunken Soviet tank on his keychain, and now we see she shrunk a cop car. On the drive home, Cassie says she protested the city clearing a homeless encampment of people who had lost their homes in the blip, referring to the people who dusted back to find their homes occupied,
Oh my
creating a
God.
giant housing crisis.
Also, was it Ant-Man and his daughter? I wasn't really feeling the connection there, because Ant-Man the whole time was just like, I gotta get back my daughter. Like, he was on like I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. I don't know why. It wasn't connecting for me. The only time it connected was that Kang scene when they were in the jail and he was like about to kill Cassie if he didn't do what he wanted him to do. That was about it. Other than that, I didn't really care too much about the little family dynamic they had. But let's get back into it.
Cassie also says,
A guy dressed like a bee tried to kill me in my room when I was 6. I've never had a normal life.
yes, of course, setting up the return of
That's true.
Darren Cross in this movie.
My
as
God,
MODOK.
was-
Scott plays a clip from his audiobook.
And in that moment, all I could think,
That he was MODOK was such a joke of a character. Absolute joke. I hated what they did. I did not know why they had to kill off MODOK so early. They could have used him for some other stuff. I don't understand his whole change of heart bullshit at close. Like, I was like, what? Why? What? No, that didn't make sense. Then they had this like, don't stop being a dick joke. Like, I was like, no, be evil. You're evil. Didn't he leave you down here for 20 years? What's this change up? Like, I hated that. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all.
was how did the Hulk turn me into a baby? Will I be a baby forever? Am I the Hulk's baby? A little after that, a raccoon from space showed up. I don't think he knew my name.
I was just happy to meet a raccoon who could talk.
Yes, obviously more nods to Endgame, of course meeting Rocket, and that interesting moment where their failed time travel experiments resulted in Scott being stuck in the body of a baby, which reminds us of how the Avengers accidentally invented a kind of immortality, or at least slow aging, which does become important in this movie when their super intelligent ants age 1,000 years in a single day. Over dinner, Cassie reminds Scott that he got in trouble for getting back at VistaCorp. That was the company that Scott used to work for, the company that was screwing over its customers. Scott tried to get back at them and then ended up in prison over it. She also brings up how Scott went to Germany to fight Captain America in Civil War. Scott corrects her, saying that he fought with Cap alongside Cap since he was on Team Cap. Hank uses old school pin particles to enlarge a pizza, and in his ear, we see that he has a hearing aid, setting up his frequency entangling with these ants throughout the movie. Peyton Reed confirmed that this pizza enlargement is a nod to the pizza hydration scene in Back to the Future Part 2. And when we enter their basement lab, right away are a ton of visual clues pointing to Cassie and Hank having geeked out over both ants and technology. Cassie's quantum satellite device has a silver and bronze color like a vintage stereo, reflecting Hank's design influence, and Scott sees their huge ant farm right away and how all the ants inside have helmets and have already built a pretty complex society there. The display screen on the other side of the room has a 3D image of an ant on it, and all over the table are textbooks about ants.
Holy shit. Hey, when them ants ran up on Kang like that and really whoop Buddy, that was kind of crazy because they was really on his ass. And also, you know what? Never mind. I was gonna say Kang was looking kind of weak there. I'm not. That's probably 100 ants running up on one. That's a lot for anybody. Okay, so you know what? He wasn't too weak on it. I was about to say something.
Janet
crazy.
is super worried.
You know how dangerous the quantum realm is. We all do, Mom. Nobody's going to the quantum realm.
So Janet went from being pretty okay with Scott going into the quantum realm to collect quantum healing particles at the end of the 2018 film to now being completely terrified that Cassie is even communicating with the quantum realm. So what changed? Well,
once again,
maybe Janet
she could have just said
Scott
something.
going
She could have
down there for
said
just a few
anything,
seconds to a
but she
specific
didn't.
region
I
of the
don't know
quantum
why.
realm that Janet
It was
could
a
locate,
mystery
a
to
place
me.
that in her years on the run from Kang, she hid in the surrealist rural parts away from the civilization. But it's also possible that the Avengers, having gotten away with time travel via the quantum realm since then, has reminded Janet that quantum realm-based timeline manipulation is a real thing, and that Kang is still a real threat down there, and they shouldn't risk re-entry again. They shouldn't tempt fate, because as Tony Stark said in Endgame,
You mess with time, it tends to mess back.
so the device activates on its own, but we later learn that it was MODOK hijacking it, and the whole family gets sucked in. Scott bumps into
Such
the
a
ant farm
waste
right
of a
away,
character,
proving
man.
that these
That
ants
shit
got
was
sucked in
crazy.
too, and that they're gonna come back later. The family gets separated, and Scott slaps on the chest piece of his suit. Now, compared to the last time we saw him in Endgame, his suit in the opening sequence of this movie has a different chest piece, and that's because this is a form of portable nanotech that contains the entire suit inside, showing how Scott has upgraded to something closer to Stark tech. And after Giant Scott catches his daughter, I love how she proves she already knows how to work this in her own suit by pressing the button on Scott's glove to shrink them back down. What Cassie thinks is the son behind Scott has stuttered movement, and they realize it's actually a predator. Scott enlarges to take it out, and then pisses off a paramecium-looking creature, and they're saved by the freedom
so many
fighters. Meanwhile,
creative
Janet explains
creatures,
to Hank how
just
there's a
like
whole
creative
civilization and
amoeba-looking
ecosystem down here,
things.
saying you weren't
So
able to
good.
look deep enough, not through the void in Subatomica. There are worlds, worlds and worlds. It's a place beyond time and space, and she says,
It's the secret universe beneath ours.
she's referring to that moment when Hank and Janet left the quantum realm in the 2018 film, and Peyton Reed hid a city in the background. That area with the chaotic visuals must be what Janet was referring to by the void, even though in Loki, the void is a completely different place where he remains banishes things that he prunes. And then she drops the word Subatomica. Now in the Marvel comics, Subatomica is the name of the solar system that's contained within the microverse that contains all the various different planets that you can visit down there. You can actually read a lot more about Subatomica and its various appearances in the Marvel comics over on the Fandom Marvel database. They always do a really good job curating that info.
That's what
Scott and
that's what I've
Cassie are
been
taken
trying to look
the
up
Freedom
more.
Fighter
Just like
camp where they
Marvel
have
comics,
to
just been
drink
reading more
the
stuff.
ooze from Veb, voiced by David Dastmalchian,
Funniest
who
character
played
in the
Kurt
movie
in the
right
previous
there.
films. William Jackson Harper plays
That little blob thing, funniest character by far. Him too. Very good little side characters. They did their job. It was just very funny.
It's a telepath Quaz. Great casting as Chidi from The Good Place, the guy in an afterlife burdened with knowing
That's
too
where
much.
I saw
Katie
him
O'Brien
from. I
plays
was
their
like, I've
leader,
seen him
Jentora.
before. I
Janet
don't remember
takes them
from
to
where.
a dune region
Okay.
where she gets a manta ray-like mount that she telepathically communicates with. In the 2018 film, there was a deleted scene in which Janet communicates with a quantum realm creature.
Passing through, we stake no claim.
Go in peace.
And when they soar across the quantum realm on this thing's back, they briefly spot a quantum knot outpost, which has a Kang mural on it. Janet leads Hank and Hope to the city of Axia.
The subatomic universe. This changes everything we know about
This
life.
is so dope. It was so cool.
evolution,
Like just the concepts and
location, the
everything they came up with,
galaxy.
like the
Holy-
set pieces. They look so good.
That guy looks like broccoli.
Yeah, Broccoli Man is voiced by Graham Fox, who was the on-set reader for Crow in Eternals, and they meet up with Janet's old flame Krylar. Now, Lord Krylar, played by Bill Murray.
I thought he was going to be in the movie longer.
Krylar is
he
a
wasn't.
sort of one-and-done character from the planet Kai in the Microverse, who shows up just in one comic issue, Incredible Hulk 156. Similarly, this Krylar doesn't last too long in this movie before Hank Pym enlarges a squid creature delicacy that, for whatever reason, doesn't eat Krylar. Really let him off easy there. Krylar reveals that Kang had sent MODOK, mechanized organism designed only for killing, to hunt Scott and Cassie in the Freedom Fighter camp. Now in the comics, MODOK is an AIM technician, George Tarleton, who gets mutated by the Cosmic Cube, but Marvel Studios here has retconned MODOK to be Darren Cross, Corey Stoll's villain Yellow Jacket from the 2015 film. His body parts disproportionately shrunk after he was zipped down to the quantum realm. And as we see, the uncanniest valley
it was
in this
horrible to
whole
look at
uncanny
in the
valley
movie.
of a film.
It really was.
A montage flashes back to Darren in the 2015 film, his defeat, and now picks back up with his disfigured form in the quantum realm and how Kang restored his body and its creepy little butt. Becomes a source of mockery for the rest of the film.
I
And by the
want to
way,
say that
a great
again.
resource to learn about MODOK is,
Oh.
again, that Marvel database from our friends at Fandom, which also curates every single one of MODOK's known comic appearances, so you can go read all of them. I do love how he has a heart rate monitor on his chest that later flatlines when he dies, and he has a crystal on his forehead that he used to fire a beam
don't know
at
why
Scott
they had to kill him, bro. They
Kang.
definitely
He
could have
remains
used him for
used
some more
Goliath
stuff.
as his lapdog. Kang uses MODOK. Janet finally tells Hope and Hank her
crazy,
history
bro.
with Kang. She says that Kang's ship could travel the multiverse, and Hank asks, the multiverse as in alternate dimensions, parallel realities? And Janet says, I didn't believe it at first, but it's real, just as we theorized. So Hank and Janet having theorized about the multiverse back in the 80s makes them predecessors to another couple, Wanda and Vision, having some multiverse pillow talk in the past.
What do you know about the multiverse?
Viz had his theories. He believed it was real and dangerous.
Now, much like how Scott, Hope, and Cassie shrink and grow to a variety of sizes, people's car insurance comes in all sizes too.
Not the
A driver with their
ads.
first
Oh my goodness, the ads, man. Spike is everywhere, man. Oh.
or go to statefarm.com to get a quote today. Janet recounts
get
how,
back to
after
it.
they saved each other, she and Kang
The
agreed to
ads.
help each
Car
other
insurance
rebuild and
ads of all
reactivate the
ads.
multiverse engine core of this ship. And we don't know how many of the other Kangs have this kind of technology, but we have to assume that none of them do, or they all do now that he remains is out of the picture, but they have a kind of truce where they're able to check each other's infinite power over the time stream. A kind of mutually assured destruction, making this Kang, Kang the Conqueror, the rogue state of them all. The Kim Jong Kang, the one who didn't play by the rules. Now Janet says his ship was neurokinetic.
I really hope he's not
connected to his
dead.
thoughts.
I
So when
really
she
do. I
touched
really
it,
hope he
she
comes
saw
back
his mind and
great.
felt
Like I hope
what
he
had
just.
done. She says
I hope they
entire
do that
worlds,
because
entire timelines gone, like they never
just
existed.
to
This
kill. I don't
sequence
think. I don't
uses
think they would do
the
that because that'd be
same
kind of
sacred timeline
crazy.
imagery from Loki, but it shows the actions of this Kang the Conqueror tearing it apart. While we see Kang within a single timeline blasting innocents who flee from him, he's causing so many branched timelines on individual scales that the timeline as a whole cannot take it. So it's not just murder, it's load-bearing murders that destroy the fabric of that timeline. And I love how we see Kang's and the lines on his face illuminating as he slaughters these people. Lines precisely where the scars are on his cheeks now. And I'll go into what those scars are in next week's deep dive into this film on the other channel. So just another reminder to subscribe. Janet, waking up from this nightmare, pauses in fear, and Kang is able to see in her eyes that she knows who he is. She asks, who is Kang? The first time we hear the word Kang in the MCU. And Kang, hearing this question, knows that he has hurt so many people in his life, he just knows what it looks like when the person staring back at him knows what kind of monster he is.
It was such a good scene, low-key.
He frames
Very
his
good
master
scene.
plan in just a single word.
Like you just
win.
see the switch
What is
up.
Kang's
It's
plan?
crazy.
To win. Janet has to disable his core by enlarging it beyond use with PIM discs. So she had these on her the entire time she was in the quantum realm. These are probably rainy day PIM discs that she was hoping she'd be able to use to escape the quantum realm. But this task is more important. Kang must be trapped, even if it means entombing herself with him. And again, this justifies why in the 2018 film, Hank found Janet far away from the city in the distance. She had to exile herself in the far borders of the quantum realm to stay hidden from Kang. And that explains why in the 2015 Ant-Man, Scott saw her shadow projected on the other side of the border of the quantum realm. She was on the far border of it to get as far away from Kang as possible. Meanwhile, Kang in prison introduces himself to Scott and retracts his mask, giving us a close-up
One of the
look
best
at
parts
that
of the movie right
neurokinetic
here.
overlay
This
and
was
how it clings to his
menacing,
skin perfectly.
creepy,
As it
scary,
retracts,
just
you can notice
put the
briefly
fear in.
diagonal reinforcement
I
lines
like
across
this
his
scene.
cheeks
This was
becoming
a
visible,
good
and the
scene,
lights
man.
on the
Really
side of his helmet dim.
showed
Kang
off the
says
power
he
of
has killed
Kang.
Avengers before, and for the second time in this movie, Scott is confused with the wrong Avenger.
You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor. We get confused a lot. Similar body types.
Yeah, Kang has specifically killed Thor, which I speculated in a New Rockstars video might have been done right before Thor sparked Vision to life, since Vision and his multiverse mind would pose potentially a pretty major threat to Kang in another timeline. Kang explains that he knows how all of time ends, saying, me, a lot of me. They exiled me down here. they're afraid of me, which might sound pretty familiar to what his variant He Who Remains says in Loki.
If you think I'm evil, well, just wait till you meet my variants.
It just sounds like all the Kangs are really just afraid of each other. While He Who Remains was extremely animated, jumping in and out of his jet's chair, Major's performance as Kang the Conqueror is far more rigid, regal, what the actor described as no moves wasted. He tortures Scott and Cassie with just a flick of a finger, a gesture that he repeats consistently to swat them down and make commands throughout this movie. But throughout the film, you can see his rage simmering beneath the surface, rising and rising until it all just explodes in the final battle. Scott agrees to help Kang shrink the core so that Kang won't hurt Cassie, and Kang opens a portal to the site. And from here, Scott dives into the probability storm and begins splitting into variants, which MODOK describes as Schrodinger's box and Scott is a cat, referring to Erwin Schrodinger's thought experiment to describe the theoretical existence of a multiverse within an unobserved system. Schrodinger's cat was first referenced in the MCU back on Eric Selvig's chalkboard in Thor: The Dark World. This concept was also described by Bill Foster in the 2018
How would
film.
you even? That's crazy.
Object in
They even
question
saw
would be
that.
both in and out of phase with multiple parallel realities.
This core is essentially a far more advanced form of Tony Stark's quantum navigator that they used in the quantum realm in Endgame. It's just on a far more controlled scale and produced from a self-perpetuating energy source. It seems like inside this core is a kind of nexus hub for different multiversal realities to spawn from. The bands of this core have writing on them, a language based on circles, which you can see in other parts of the quantum realm. This might be a language that Kang uses and enforces throughout the realm. Now, one of Scott's variants is himself if he never became an Avenger and stayed at
This was a funny
Baskin-Robbins.
part. I was like, this is
Screen.
funny.
Another one, if you listen closely, asks him for ice cream. When one of the Scotts sizes up, he unravels into ribbons, which looks a lot like what Wanda Maximoff did to Reed Richards. We don't know what's really going on here, why this happens, but it might just be some divine multiversal law that says when you stray too far from your hive of variants, you get like self-pruned out of existence. And from here, this scene is just smartly shot by having all the other Scott variants helmet up out of fear, but our Scott stays unhelmeted, which is both a practical way to follow him in the scene and a way of showing his courage and determination to save Cassie. But really, it's Cassie who saves Scott. All the Scotts, by uniting this whole hive behind their
This is probably the only time.
And after shrinking the core back.
That's right. This scene right here is probably the only part in time I really felt this like family father-daughter thing really like somewhat like it was like, okay, he chased after his daughter and then all these other variants are helping him push up to do something. Like I was like, okay, now I kind of feel it, but the rest of the movie, no.
Kang meets the rest of the gang and tells Hope, "Hello, Jellybean." Jellybean was Janet's nickname for Hope. This is his creepy way of indicating that he knows her. Kang takes the core, swats away Scott and Hope, and takes Janet back to his fortress, where he has this fascinating conversation with her. He projects the sacred timeline around the room, starting with just a ring in his hand. "I saw the chaos spreading across realities, universes colliding, endless incursions.
Ooh,
I
bro,
saw
such
the
a good. It was
multiverse,
such a
dying,
good
all
villain. If you go
because
see the
of
movie,
them." He
just
projects
go see
that
it
one
for the
ring
villain, man.
over
It's
another
so
ring
good,
with
man.
branches between the rings veering toward each other and colliding with little flashes. These represent incursions. And after these incursions happen, those branches stay there, just kind of sad, broken ends, showing how one of the universes won that incursion, the other one didn't, and left this ugly scar behind. Now remember, when He Remains first revealed
I forgot
the multiverse in his
they
origin
did show
story,
that
he
in
depicted it as
Doctor
one
Strange,
ring
Multiverse of
floating atop
Madness.
another
The
ring.
universe
So I love how this movie's really
completely, like,
building
messed
on that
up.
visual language. And now we see how the sacred timeline's eruption upon Sylvie killing He Who Remains in the Loki finale affects another sacred timeline.
Another
That
just
event,
mistake,
as well
bro.
as
Sylvie,
Peter Parker
bro.
and Doctor
Such a-
Strange's spell going awry, and Doctor
So
Strange Wanda
crazy.
Maximoff dreamwalking and Multiverse of Madness are all examples of these kind of incursions, and how one by one they represent a crack in the dam, leading to the overall death of the multiverse. What's interesting is, this Kang doesn't blame the Avengers for it. He looks down on the Avengers like they're helpless children who don't know what they're doing. Instead, he blames the other Kangs in the dynasty for their childish meddling, childish behaviors beneath Kangs, and he views himself as the adult in the room, who believes that order is attained only by conquering, as he says, burning the broken world and building a new one. He says all the suffering will be worth it, defending himself saying, "I have lost. You have no idea what I've lost, and I will burn them out of time for what they've done to me." So think about this. When we see Kang in this movie vaporizing people, in his mind, he is burning them out of time, like cauterizing a wound, leaving a scar, sending a message with that scar. And yes, we are
so
left
he
with the
doesn't
mystery
even
of what Kang lost.
So he doesn't even see it as killing. because he's seen it all. Okay. You know what? I didn't even peep that. Okay.
One theory is that he's doing all this to win back his
Okay.
long-lost love of Ravonna Renslayer. But I don't know. Based on Kang later pummeling Scott after
He
Scott
beat the
decided to leave
shit
his daughter
outta- he beat
behind
the
and
sh-
instead
the-
into
he
himself with
beat the
Kang,
hell
I have
outta
to wonder if
Ant-Man.
Kang might
All right?
himself have a
He
daughter
was
we don't know
whooping
about.
Buddy.
I don't know.
Like, it
Maybe
was-
Ravonna's
oh
actually
my
his
God.
daughter. Maybe Miss
It was
Minutes
brutal.
is his daughter's soul. I don't know. My mind is running away with me. Hank, meanwhile, was saved by his ant farm. The ants time dilated 1,000 years in a single day, meaning they must have slipped into a time vortex. And in that time, they built a socialistic technocratic society. I think we always forget that the best parts of these Ant-Man movies are the ants. These ants neutralize Kang's advantage
bro, when them
of
ants
technology
came in, bro, I was
hundreds of
like,
years in the future
damn.
because Kang's chosen
They-
system
they-
of governance is
they-
an
they-
archaic
those ants-
military
those ants are
dictatorship.
crazy.
He doesn't know how to play with others. Kang mobilizes his fortress to depart the quantum realm with his entire army. He declares, "Today we conquer eternity and the dynasty of Kangs," before Cassie cuts him off. But conquer eternity? Interesting choice of words, considering the character of eternity, as of Thor: Love and Thunder, did have a physical form in the MCU, and we're not exactly sure where eternity is after it seemed to transform into Mistress Love. There may not be an eternity to conquer, which is an interesting concept because Jonathan Majors partially based his character on Alexander the Great. What do they say about Alexander the Great? Alexander wept, for there were no worlds left to conquer. And yes, of course, Kang also mentions his dynasty, whom we meet in the post-credit scene, and will be the Kangs the Avengers have to face in Avengers Kang Dynasty in 2025. Giant Scott attacks Kang's fortress. This is the largest he has grown yet. In the 2018 film, he bragged to Bill Foster that his record then was 65 feet, or 19.8 meters, which is roughly how big he gets in the San Francisco Bay. In Avengers Endgame, that wide shot of all the portals opening up, Giant Scott, when you compare his height to a nearby human, Giant Scott is roughly 19 times as tall as that human, and if you were to put that human at 6 feet, because those look like the Wakandans, you know, the mountain tribe, they're pretty tall, that would make Giant Scott in Endgame around 114 feet tall, or 37.4 meters. But now, based on this one shot, where Giant Scott stomps on the quantum knots, those
Yeah, he
quantum
got
knots,
super
I
big.
would say, are about 25% of the scale of that human next to his foot in Endgame, which means that Scott here must be around at least 4 times taller than he was in Endgame, well over 450
Yeah,
feet tall
he
now,
got-
or
yeah.
over 137 meters. Our man is roughly the height of a small skyscraper. And yes, when Scott stomps on Kang's forces, it does mirror how Kang will later stomp on his helmet, as if, of course, trying to crush an ant. Scott picks up a disc-shaped piece of a building and uses it as a shield that he later wedges into Kang's rings, much like his hero Captain America would, bringing him full circle with his reference membership on Team Cap. He cannonballs into the rings and breaks them. Now, think about this. Kang could have used that multiverse core to power his ship chair alone and escape the quantum realm without going to all this trouble. The reason he fails, really, is because he got greedy. He wanted to bring his entire fortress, his entire fleet with him to
I didn't
wage
peep
war
that.
on all
He
the
really
Kangs.
could have just done
Because
that.
he insisted on
I
bringing
didn't
all
think
the
about
stuff
it. He
with
really
him,
could have
gave
just
Scott and the
left
others enough time
himself.
to stop him. Though in fairness to Kang, you could argue that he felt that he needed all this backup because the moment he escaped from the quantum realm, he'd have the full might of the Kang dynasty on him. This is all a way of saying it's hard being Kang. We get this little moment where Giant Scott celebrates with Giant Cassie, and what I love about the shot is that it was likely one of the easier VFX shots to do, since both actors are the same size. But I do like how they slowed down their speech and their movement just a little bit, but either way, father and daughter are finally on the same level. They're finally talking slow enough to listen to and understand each other. Cassie says she's hungry and craves a lime, to which Scott says, "Yeah, citrus, it's weird." This calls back the running joke of Scott always wanting orange slices after he goes big.
Does anyone have any orange slices?
Scott even had orange slices ready to go when Hawkeye came back from the baseball glove trial in Avengers Endgame. And so Kang, finally allowing his rage to boil over, floats down to the battle on a disc and vaporizes everyone in
Yeah,
sight. Love how his
and that scene,
pyrokinetic
he should
armor
have killed all.
automatically
You know what?
shifts up his arm.
It would have been a way better scene if he would have just killed all the rebellious people. If he would have killed all the rebellion right there, I mean all of them, because like he clearly could do that. I don't know why he, like, if he would have done that, oh my gosh, it would. There's so many parts in this movie that could have just been done better or different that would have made this movie like 6 times better. It's
arm
crazy.
and over his shoulders to just get out of the way and give his arms greater flexibility. The Freedom Fighters, despite making some gains when
Best
Bev
part of the
used his
movie right
holes
there,
to
my guy.
Kirby
Best
some
part of the
quantum
movie.
nuts, Kang repels them. He
Best
kills
part of the movie
Zalem,
right there,
and
man.
Jintora
He
is
was
forced to retreat, and we
hilarious.
briefly see one of the sentient buildings holding the other as it dies in its arms. But facing down Kang
That's
is
crazy.
Scott, Hope, and Cassie, where Cassie finally masters a jump tap, and Scott grows large enough to slam Kang against a
She
wall,
really sucked, though.
saying,
She really
"You
cannot
son of a,"
do, like,
before Kang
yeah.
blasts him off. Remember, Kang,
cannot do that little
Nathaniel
jump tap.
Richards, is the son of a bloodline that traces back to Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. So Kang might have cut off Scott's sentence to avoid having to think about his lineage. But ultimately, Hank's ants save the day, swarming Kang, and Darren takes Cassie's advice to stop being a dick. Love the look of disgust and anger Kang gives MODOK in this moment. This is a conqueror who hates being betrayed. And MODOK turns Kang's shield from Kang's color, blue, to MODOK's color, fuchsia, allowing the ants to pick apart Kang's armor and carry him away. They watch MODOK die, his heart rate monitor turning red and flatlining. Janet uses the quantum cord to open the portal home, but Scott notices Kang approaching and pushes Cassie in order to stay behind and fight Kang just to keep him in the quantum realm. Now, think about this. It's not really explained how Kang got away from the ants, but now I'm pretty worried about the ants and even more impressed with Kang for defeating an advanced technocratic society with the willpower of one conqueror. I don't know, maybe he made side deals with some of the top ant lieutenants to turn on the others, or maybe brainwash them with some fascist talking points that socialism doesn't work. I don't know, I'm impressed. Kang and Scott fight one-on-one, and I do like it when an epic third act battle boils down to just a simple fist fight or sword duel. Kang's armor is broken off to expose his arm. Jonathan Majors gets to show off some of that physique and come off like a physically imposing force. Scott is outmatched, but he's able to hang in there because he's not trying to win.
I don't have to win. We both just have to lose.
Hope returns and helps Scott destroy the core with red and blue pin particles, creating a vortex, pushing Kang into that vortex, and shrinking him out of sight. We gotta assume he's not dead because Darren Cross went through the same process.
Yeah, I'm about to say, he better not be dead.
Probability storm down there.
I want him to come back.
Unlike Scott, it's gonna be really hard for Kang to cooperate with this variant.
Kang
so
the
when
Conqueror.
He does figure it out. Look out. We got Secret Wars coming. Meanwhile, Cassie uses her quantum realm telescope to locate the last known spot where the portal was and reopens it. I didn't know a communicator could do that, and I thought our communicator only portaled them in before because MODOK hijacked it. The logic's kind of fuzzy, but in my opinion, what saves it is that this film's epilogue doesn't really leave things all neatly tied up for Scott anyway. He remains haunted by the consequences of defeating Kang the Conqueror, fearing the Kang dynasty now. A dynasty that is coming, based on the post-credit scene, introducing us to Ramatut and Mortis, thousands of other Kangs, now on a mission to stop the Avengers from continuing to tamper with the multiverse. The second post-credit scene's even scarier in some ways, introducing us to Victor Timely, a Kang variant from 1901, who I explained in the post-credit scene might have inspired Howard Stark. But as he goes back through his routine, Scott's eyes seem to linger on people wearing the same shade of bright purple, with purple balloons at Cassie's party, a green cake, purple and green, the colors of Kang's armor. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but this is where Scott's brain is right now. He's paranoid, he's losing it.
He was
and there's a
paranoid
deeper
the whole
significance to Scott's unresolved paranoia that I will explore in next week's Quantumania deep dive. But a few things to note about Scott's changed reality. On the wall by the sidewalk of his morning walk, there's now graffiti of an Ant-Man helmet with a heart around it. Happy Valentine's, Scott! And Ruben now knows his name. But still, there's a lingering
He's like,
creepiness
that's the bug,
to
you're the
Scott
other
going
bug
back
guy.
through
It was
his loop
hilarious.
of his life as if nothing
You're
has
the different
changed.
bug
Like
guy.
his life is an episode of a sitcom from which he cannot escape. He is the comedian sitcom star being welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to a narrative loop written for him by architects controlling every aspect of his life. Architects who are now thrilled that he did away with their pesky exile. And yes, I did break down this movie's post-credit scenes in
I hope that Kang the Conqueror comes back, gets revenge on all those three for banishing him, and then we get to see the true Kang that can just take over whatever he wants to. It can conquer whatever he wants to. I hope that happens, because that's gonna be amazing. Man, this movie overall, man, it was just a 6 out of 10, man. Low key might be a 5 out of 10, man, but it just could have done more, man. This could have been more grandiose, man. This could have been I don't know, but I don't know where they're going with it either. We all know, maybe when this is all said and done, Ant-Man was really just the catalyst for the greater things to come on. But we don't know yet. But as this movie as it is, just not that good. Could have done a whole bunch of other stuff better. But let me know how you feel about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania down below in the comments. Other than that, it's me, Martin Ronan. Hope you have a good day. All that other stuff. Deuce.